Hey, Bigpod.
Hey Josh.
Just to let you know, Slackware has had me so captivated with learning Linux, because with Slackware, you don't learn Slackware, you learn Linux in order to fix all your things. That's what they say, and I have learned so much about Linux that I already knew, but I just reinforced it to me so far this whole week, and I have a rant for you.
Oh great.
Yeah.
Cue the music.
Hey guys, welcome to No Talks Allowed. I am your host Josh, and with me today I have brought Bigpod, and today I am still wearing my beautiful white t-shirt because it is freshly laundered and everything, so you guys don't know if it's the same one as the last time you watched this show. But Bigpod, I think you got a different shirt on.
Yeah, I got one of my it's totally just for home collection.
Ah, so that is the shirt that will never be seen in public in person because it's already on the internet.
Yes.
Okay. So, Bigpod, we're going to start with the challenge updates, right? So
Yeah.
we have to do our mandatory fetch program of our choice. So what I'm going to do is we're going to flip over to my screen first, and you can see this is my setup for how I record the show. I managed to get fast fetch to actually work. So obviously you can see I have Slackware installed, right? Okay, so Bigpod, it's now your turn.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. Here's my terminal. It's Ptixis, as you're gonna soon see, and I'm gonna just type fast fetch. And here's my Gento.
Okay. So we got the requirement out of the way. So
Yes.
I said that I have a rant. I have
Go
a fucking
ahead.
rant, right? So, where to start? Okay, first of all,
At the beginning.
yeah, at the very beginning. So Slackware fresh install. Now if you looked very closely at that fast fetch, you could see that I'm using Slackware current. So I signed up for this probably, but Slackware is at release version 15.0, which still uses a Linux kernel version of 5.15, which does not work with my graphics card because I'm using an Intel Arc A770 as my desktop GPU right now because my B580 is currently not plugged in. But that requires at least a kernel of version 6.2 or newer. So I had two choices. I could make use of current, or I could compile my own kernel. It's been a while since I compiled a kernel, so I decided I'm going to switch over to Slackware current because heaven forbid, that at least sounds kind of supported. Well, it turns out that Slackware current is in fact fairly well supported. So I did the upgrade. It took forever because I did the stupid thing with Slackware, and I told it to install everything because you could just do that with Slackware. So it updated every single package on the system, which totaled over 4,000 at the time. And after I got that upgraded, now I could log in. Well, I had Slackware does not have a running display manager by default. So you just
Really?
you just boot right into a TTY shell. Which that's fine. I've played with Slackware before. I expected that. So the very first thing I did was I logged into the TTY shell and I ran start KDE Wayland, which booted up a KDE Plasma session on my computer. Which then I proceeded to use appropriate internet search results. So I'm just going to say Google because, that's just a word that people understand. Sorry, Google. It's a verb now. So I did some Googling, and I discovered that, hey, it turns out that Slackware pre-installs LightDM, SDDM, and GDM, apparently. it exists on my system. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, how do I get the service manager to start this? Well, it turns out that Slackware does not have a traditional init system enabled by default. Well,
It
traditional
has
and
to
like,
have some sort of
well,
init system, but it isn't like probably isn't like
it's not
the
like
complex one.
Let me explain this a little bit for you, right? Because it's not using a system. It's not using an init system like you and I are talking about in like a more modern sense. Because you got to remember,
Service-based init system, you mean?
yeah, a service-based init system. Instead, it's using a BSD style init system. So, in order for me to, get a service started and running, it's all done through fancy bash scripts in /etc/rc.d.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I needed to get into that, and there was already an existing script for a display manager, because that's what SDDM and like DM are called. They're called display managers for some reason.
Yeah.
So I get in there and I enable SDDM. Cool, that works. So I get that in there and it's like, okay, so how do I restart the service? That way, it just works and I don't have to reboot. I have yet to figure out how to do that. So you know what I did? I just rebooted the computer. Okay, so now I log in and I have SDDM. So now I have a fancy graphical login manager. And I have a lot of options for what I can log into because of Slackware. So I have Blackbox, TWM, Flexbox, and I don't remember what the other window manager is. And then I have KDE X11, KDE partial Wayland, and KDE full Wayland. Now, obviously, in all of my experiences using this Intel Arc GPU, Xorg has been very, very rough. So that's why I did like my massive switch to Wayland, and I've been using exclusively Wayland for like the past year and a half at this point, I think. So I just log into KDE full Wayland because that just made sense to me. And I'm having a happy, fun time until I figure out, hey, let's get Steam installed because, we need to see if we can work on this. Well, Slackware does not support multilib officially. Well, and in order to do that, now I need to figure out how to enable a community repository in Slackware, which thankfully, once I figured it out, it turns out that was actually pretty easy. So, because the alternative solution is going to slackbuilds.org and downloading a package from there, then downloading the source for that the package is going to be built off of from there, executing a bash script, which then creates a package in a temporary file location that you then have to separately install, because heaven forbid the Slack build script just can't do that for you. And then you just have a working thing, assuming, of course, you got your dependencies, because guess what Slackware's package manager does not do?
Dependency resolution.
No, it does not. You're on your own for that one. Yeah.
Oh, God.
So, in order to get Steam working, if I wanted to do it through the officially recommended fashion, I was going to go through fucking hell.
So, what you're trying to tell me, the Slackware package manager doesn't know how to read a list.
No, because the Slackware package manager is literally just a bash script that just wgets and then just moves a file from one location to another. That's how it works.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So it's like there's gotta be an easier way. And then I discover the community repository that is hosted by a guy named Alien Bob, who is apparently a very big name in like the Slackware community. Okay. So this alien Bob guy, he has this massive repository that has all the nice things, including multilib support. So now I can just run sudo slack package install multilib after I get this repository enabled. Well, that took forever, but now I have multilib support on the system, which meant now I can install Steam and hope and pray that it runs. Well, it turns out that Steam did not run the first time because, heaven forbid, the multilib package was broken on current. I had to fix it. So, I did not know this yet. So my next solution was, well, we need to see if it's an issue with Slackware itself, or if this is going to be an issue with Steam in general. So, troubleshooting step. Let's install Flatpak. Flatpak does in fact successfully install. Okay.
Good.
And it pre-configures FlatHub for me, which is fantastic. Now,
Why do I have a feeling Flatpak doesn't work?
I'm about to get to that because you know I install a couple test packages first, you know, just like simple things like, you know, I think the very first thing I installed was like the KDE PDF viewer, and it worked. And I'm like, okay, Flatpak install Steam. Let's see if Steam works. Nope, because guess what, Bigpod? You'll never know
What?
this. So, when I go to launch the Steam Flatpak, it comes up with an error message saying that, hey, your kernel was compiled without namespaces support. So therefore, this program cannot operate because it cannot access hardware outside of the sandbox.
Huh.
Right? Now,
Yeah.
obviously they got me wondering because, you know, Docker uses namespaces.
Yep.
Okay. Well,
Docker shouldn't work either.
let's confirm this. Let's install Docker. Docker's installed. Docker is successfully running. Okay. Docker run hello world. Docker does not work.
Nope. Yeah.
They're like, okay,
That
we have
means namespaces are disabled.
that means namespaces are disabled. Okay, so I see people apparently running Slackware with Docker containers running. So let's figure out how to report a bug, Bigpod. So I go to slackware.com/gethelp, come up with a Linux user space questions, or I can't remember the website now. So if I go to slackware.com and wait for page to load because heaven forbid, we get some help for support. Ah, yes. It turns out that the official Slackware forum is a linuxquestions.org forum. Right? So I go looking through there and it's like, no, I want to report a bug. I cannot for the life of me find just a form to fill out a bug. Instead, it turns out that the one way that I can report a bug to Slackware is to be old-fashioned and send an email in an old-school mailing list.
Wow.
And I have not gotten a single reply on that. So, I think that this is an intentional change.
Interesting.
Like, okay, so Flatpak is not going to run. I'm not willing to compile a kernel because, heaven forbid, I just don't want to do it. I want to see if I can get things working the proper way. So now we're going to fix Steam. Took me a minute to get Steam working because, you know, it turns out that multilib was just not building. Well, it was building and installing, but it was not pulling into a dependency that Steam required. Of course, it wasn't. And of all the dependencies that it was missing Zenity, which is what Steam uses for invoking file picker options. And I'm like, all right, that's understandable. Because Slackware does not package GNOME utilities. So that can make some sense. But thankfully, Alien Bob provides Zenity. Okay, so we'll install Zenity through Alien Bob's repository. Cool, Steam works now. Okay, so the next step. This is a podcast where we make excellent use of the V4L2 loopback plugin. So, because, when we record, I want Bigpod to see the same camera that you're seeing right here on the YouTube video. Well, I go to get working on that next. That's my next victim. So we do sudo slackpack install v4l2 loopback because it's just a package that's available on Slackware. So I install that. I go to mod probe it. Doesn't work. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, at this point, I know well that Slack package does not support dependency resolution. So I'm assuming that there's a headers package I need to install. I just assumed that it would be installed because I told Slackware to install everything when I told it to install. But kernel headers was not installed. So, okay. So sudo slack package install kernel headers. And then just run... Just rerun the installation for v4l2 loopback maybe, and then it just builds the kernel module? No, it doesn't. No. Okay, so now we need to figure out how to build a DKMS module manually, which we were able to do after many hours of troubleshooting, because I don't think I've ever done this before, actually, was building a DKMS module. So I got it. I got that up. And I could mod probe the module, which meant that it was now sort of working. So I open up OBS Studio, which has the virtual camera button available. I click it. Nothing happens. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
OBS has a wonderful utility called logging that I can actually view, which is apparently rare in graphical applications on Linux. Just letting you know. It is surprisingly rare. Okay, so let's look at the OBS Studio's log here. OBS Studio says, virtual camera module has segfaulted. So v4l2 loopback is broken as a package. Okay, well, let's see if we can just build this the proper way. So I go to slackbuilds.org, which, for context here, slackbuilds.org only packages for Slackware 15.0, not current.
Oh.
Yeah, so I grab v4l2 loopback from there. I run my 3 separate commands to get it installed. I rebuild the module. Same problem. And it doesn't seem like Alien Bob packages v4l2 loopback. Okay, so I need to come up with another solution. So I walk into my computer room where behind my giant server rack I have a shelf that's just full of random parts and pieces of the various computers that I've built over the past 20 years of me playing with computers. And I find the venerable Logitech C720. And that is what Bigpod is looking at now.
Yeah.
All that wonderful graphics quality off of a 15-year-old webcam. And, in my personal opinion, it still looks surprisingly good. I mean, yes, it's a little blurry, probably because, the lens is dirty. But I think it looks pretty good. So I go through and I continued, messing around with Slackware, and then I decided I'm going to start slimming the system down a little bit because, heaven forbid, I'm not using these X11 window managers. Do I really need them? So I remove all those, and then I remove some of the more useless packages. Like, I don't see why I need 7 different web browsers installed, so I removed most of them. I still have 4 text editors. I'm down to 1 video player from 6. and I still think I have 3 music players plus MPD. So there is no small amount of software that is still on my computer. That is just a thing that exists. So that is my experience with Slackware so far, and I'm not really enjoying it because, at the end of the day, I do prefer that, I get things working. But, this is only my first week and a half of it. So, Bigpod, what's your experience like on Gen 2?
Well, my experience is much better.
Oh, I can imagine.
After first initial problems, which were essentially my secure boot is too secure booty for it, all I had to do was disable the enforcement of secure boot, because I wasn't going to go and sign the ISO and tell it to trust the certificate I created.
You didn't want to sign the ISO, build the system, and then sign your own kernel and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've looked at those instructions. There's a reason why I haven't tried secure boot on Gen 2, because it's just like I don't want to do that.
So after I disabled secure boot enforcement, it booted. Then all it took me is couple of tries to install. Mostly I had problems with forgetting to set up things like sudo for my account, or problems like installing things because I forgot to install certain things and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I came to the conclusion I came to very early on with Linux. Package management is horrible, and that's number one. And just this reinforced my ideas why I normally use immutable systems, atomic systems, however you want to call them. And it kinda told me that this compiling all the time is boring. And I still agree with the statements I made earlier that if I wanna compile something, it should be done on a build server somewhere else and then installed via package manager.
Well, you see, Gen 2 has directions on setting up your own build server.
Oh,
and
great.
And Portage does support binary packages.
Yes.
So you can do that.
Yep, I know.
It's called use your fancy VM setup and just set up a build VM.
Yes, I know.
I don't know if that improves your compile times, because now you're doing everything through virtualized environments. Or no, this is on a laptop. Yeah.
Once I was done with that, the big problem is that it kind of gets hot, my laptop, if it compiles for too long. Because, it's a laptop.
Yeah.
Then after I was done with that problem. Now it just sits, and most of the time it doesn't have to do anything because I'm just using it as a laptop and as a client, and not as something that is overtly used like most normal people use computer. So it does.
You're not doing everything from Gen 2?
No.
Is that not cheating on the challenge?
No, because I'm doing it how I've been doing it forever. Like forever since December. I'm using my computer, my laptop, like I use my laptop.
But you're not using it as like your dedicated computer. You're not doing everything from Gen 2.
Yes.
We need we need to poll the audience on this. Is Bigpod cheating?
Bigpod isn't cheating.
We need to know. Comment in YouTube, because heaven forbid, that just helps us. But also send us an email. That way our email works. Just send us an email to contact@tuckspace.com. And let us know. Is Bigpod cheating?
Well, then I had to set up OBS, so I can do this thing, because I'm recording on my laptop because, well, a challenge.
Well, yeah, and apparently setting up OBS took you a week and a half because, we were fixing it right before we hit record still.
Yes. So one of the first things that I had problems with is when I set it up, things worked. As in, when I set it up, it recorded. What I didn't realize, it had no hardware acceleration,
Ah.
which worked because Moonlight had hardware acceleration. So it was something on the side of OBS. And after days of recompiling, I found out I might have actually recompiled it. Might have needed to recompile it just once. All I needed to do was press a couple of things for the list of the hardware accelerators to update for some reason.
Of course.
And then it started working just fine. And yeah, I've been tinkering with it to get everything to be proper like it should be, because my settings are stupid. And here we are right now. Has there any other problems been there?
Let's see here. None of the known documentation on Gentoo's wiki page mentions anything about enabling screencasts in the use flags. That way, you can record your screen for purposes of an
yeah.
Yeah.
That was today's problem.
That was today's problem, and I was just telling, and he was talking about it. It was like, just enable this use flag, or make sure this use flag's enabled. And I'm like, oh, wait a second. Did you enable screencast? He's like, yeah, I don't see it as a use flag for Pipewire or OBS. I'm like, no, you need screencast. Trust me, Bigpod. And he keeps checking things, and I tell him, no, just enable screencast. Just turn it on.
And wanna know which package needed screencast use flag?
I assume
it
was your compositor.
Oh god, like, just enable everything is my thinking. And well, when this challenge is done, I'm going back to Fedora Silverblue. So in a month and 3 weeks.
Yeah. Well, the general recommendation for Gentoo is do everything through the make.conf and then trim through the package.use. That's generally the sentiment that you'll fall into after a while. Because heaven forbid, you want Wayland, just enable Wayland on everything. You want Pipewire, just enable Pipewire on everything.
Yeah.
Heaven forbid, it's probably nice to have Pulse Audio too. So just enable Pulse Audio on everything.
Well, but if I was running it longer, I would definitely build myself a binary package archive and just compile everything for my system at a top tier. So everything enabled, and just install that and send everything to where it needs to go. Somewhere where it's a bit hotter.
Yes. And did you read the news, by the way?
No.
Oh, you should read the news. Yeah, it won't matter right now, but later it will. Trust me.
Based on my plan to not update the world until it's all done, I don't think it will matter.
Oh, you're not going to update the system at all? Oh, okay.
Nope.
Okay. I think you should do updates. Like, actually.
Problem is, there is one big update I
Yeah?
really don't care about.
Is it?
LLVM.
I mean, it only takes like 40 minutes.
That's 40 minutes of my laptop doing things I don't really need to do.
Well, what you do is you tell the laptop to do it. You throw it in like a closet or something. That way you don't have to hear it, and then go to bed.
Yeah, but it will get hot.
Put a fan on it.
It has a fan. It's just not made to run for so long.
Point a secondary fan at it.
I don't have one.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so that's our challenge update for everybody. Let's talk about a a couple news topics here because there's been a couple things that happened in the news. For one thing, Global Foundries is a pretty massive company. I don't know if they actually run any foundries themselves, but they do own a few. But they have bought MIPS. Now, MIPS, if you do not know, and I do not blame you, is a company, but they made a series of CPUs that were built off of the MIPS architecture.
Yeah.
This is stuff that dates way back to like the 70s and 80s, people. So you probably have never even seen one of these things. But MIPS, the company, has been investing very heavily lately into RISC-V.
Of course.
Yeah.
Who hasn't?
Makes sense, because for the most part, MIPS chips nowadays are mostly for like embedded systems. And RISC-V is like the new hotness in embedded systems because, there's a lot of really cool features to it. So they've been delving into it, and it hasn't worked out too well for them, so they sold themselves to Global Foundries. And of course, I've got like their announcement post in here, and they've got to hit the AI bulletin board because RISC-V based platforms has this wonderful thing. It's an open platform, and it just works very well with ASICs, which are very, very useful for neural processors, which are very useful for AI.
Yeah.
And of course, I just figured I'd probably mention it because there's probably some old guy somewhere that remembers the glory days of managing his Unix-based MIPS system, or I don't even know if it was Unix back then. It was probably before that. Multics? I don't know too much about pre-Unix computing history. So, let's move on from that. So, Bigpod, have you ever browsed through YouTube and randomly find like a fully pictured Hollywood cinema on there?
Sometimes, but rarely these days.
Yeah, it is rare these days, but I still run into it. But,
Interesting.
Analytics, which is a research company, posted a study that they did on YouTube's index. Basically like what they can get for all the public videos. And they have found over 9,000 copyright violations, as they call them. But basically, 9,000 individual movies that they were able to find that were just copy-pasted all over YouTube. And these are movies that were released within the past 2 or 3 years. And that included Hollywood films, Netflix exclusives, and of course some older TV shows like Family Guy, live broadcast of college football games. Well, in this case, American football, of course, not what we Americans call soccer. Of course. And generally unauthorized clips. And they found that they were generally pulling in 250 million views because watching sports clips is just like a pastime for some people, and occasionally I watch them too. Oh, here's the best part, Bigpod. They even found Lilo and Stitch, the live action remake of the Disney animated classic. And I'm sure that once Disney finds out, Disney's probably going to sue because Disney is that kind of company.
Yes.
Now, YouTube has a system called Content ID, which is a fingerprinting system that Google has designed to detect and flag unauthorized video streams. And what it does is, the way that we theorize that it generally works is that it takes a video, it looks at all of the individual frames of video, just tries to match it to something that's on its list of hits. Well, obviously YouTube is massive, and there is thousands of videos being uploaded per second to YouTube.
Yeah.
So there's only so much Content ID can do. Like, realistically. But when it does do its job, according to Jack Mallon, who is the YouTube spokesperson that was talking to TechSpot for this article, he says that generally Content ID can index videos, and 90% of the videos are typically allowed to remain online, with monetization obviously pointing to the appropriate source, while 10% or so are removed.
Yeah.
But of course, because those videos are removed, they no longer analyze the content of those videos. But the question now falls in: was the video actually removed from their server? Maybe not. So, and obviously, Malin says that YouTube is doing everything that it can, and while yes, we do occasionally find bad stuff on YouTube, there is no problem.
Yeah.
That's generally what he says. He's just completely dismissing this study and everything. That said, if you're a researcher willing to do this kind of work, start doing some peer review here, because that's how science works. So, Bigpod, assuming we get further studies that say something like this, how long until governments really start taking a look at YouTube? Because it turns out that there's a lot of copyright-related issues on YouTube just on the home feed.
Yeah, I don't think it will happen for a variety of reasons, because it's not just YouTube. Same problem applies to probably many others, and in probably much larger degrees.
Well, yes, but of course I'm just mostly saying YouTube because YouTube's the biggest one. But
Yeah.
Generally, YouTube runs on user-generated content, much like a social media service, because technically that's what YouTube actually is social media. So it just shows whatever people put onto it, and people just either don't understand or willfully break copyright law to post a lot of their stuff, because we have U.S. copyright law, and then we have other countries' copyright laws. Obviously, YouTube is a U.S. company, so generally they practice the U.S. copyright law kind of thing. But the Chinese user that uploads to the global YouTube rather than China's independent YouTube, he's not subject to that. But he still has to deal with the Content ID claims.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, because I still think that YouTube is it's not like the service that it was, but I still think that it is generally very useful because of how it works. Like I would probably not know nearly half of what's going on in Gaza right now if it wasn't for YouTube. Because heaven forbid, I can only take so much of watching the news, especially these days. But what's going on in Ukraine, heaven forbid, the only reason we even know half of what's going on there is because of YouTube.
Yeah, and a lot of news goes through YouTube as well.
Yeah, and
like whether it be YouTuber news people, and even proper news, mainstream media now uploads to YouTube in some cases.
That's true. Now, Bigpod, for the record, we might be classified as this, but I do not see myself as an influencer. Because, my job when we record this show is to just talk. And, we're not a news show. It's just Bigpod and I talking about our opinions on these things that we find talking about. That's generally how we treat it. It's just two nerds chatting.
So
we're
we're
not.
neither influencers nor journalists.
Yeah, that said,
Here.
if we're influencing anything here, we're probably influencing you to take a look at like these Linux-based operating systems that we constantly talk about, or
Yeah.
maybe now you're a nerd and you want to stick a server in your closet like I got. Who knows? But that's basically as far as the deal goes between you and me. So, now that we got that out of the way, the Free Software Foundation, Bigpod.
Yeah.
We don't talk about these guys very often. Because
I don't think we talked about them ever on the podcast.
I think we've mentioned them a few times, but we haven't talked about anything that they've mentioned.
Yeah.
So, they posted a blog called "Our Small Team versus Millions of Bots."
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we're going to cover this article top to bottom here because heaven forbid, there's a lot here. It is a massive post. But if you're curious on to like what the Free Software Foundation does in the modern day, like what they do for like various projects, this is probably worth actually a read. So, the Free Software Foundation has a system operations team. It's 2 full-time tech team employees and a group of dedicated volunteers. Because heaven forbid, it's a nonprofit, they only have so much money.
Yeah.
But they manage the hosting services for GNU, the Free Software Foundation itself, obviously. Other various free software projects, basically everything with like GNU and Libra in its name is generally hosted here. And then virtual machines for the browser extension of JShelter, which is a JavaScript isolation extension that you can install on some of your browsers. They also host KDE's basically stuff, which Bigpod and I didn't know at first. And then Sugar Labs, which is a organization that makes software tools for children.
Yeah, they recently counted about 70 different services and about dozen physical servers across 2 Boston area data centers.
Yeah. So, now this is all open source software, and we are now in the age of AI. So we have the AI web scrapers coming, along with the Google web scrapers, along with traditional DDoS attacks, and CI/CD tools used by GitHub, GitLab, and all those other various services. Because it turns out that they want to do a Git checkout like every few hours, just to see, hey, what's new, what's hot and new here. But it's coming so frequently that they're just saying that they're under attack. So, this is basically just like an update to a previous post that they mentioned, but they're dealing with so much traffic right now that it's starting to become a problem. And they're saying that largely it's from the large language models. Now, I believe we mentioned a project in the past to deal with this, but we'll get to that.
Probably.
We'll get to that. But they've been dealing with issues with botnets hitting GNU Savannah, which is the free software, which is the GNU project's own DIY Git forge. Even though it's not really a forge, I don't know how I would describe Savannah specifically. But they were also dealing with issues with GNU.org and ftp.gnu.org, where they publish all their packages that you can just download. And it's been having some issues with, the site just generally going down. And they developed programs to identify these IP addresses and block them, which, is generally the way to go about it. And they're having to do this a lot. And they said that at this point, we've got so many IP addresses blocked, we might be accidentally blocking people. So if you wind up getting blocked, send an email to sysadmin@fsf.org with your IP address, and they'll look into it. And please, if you're using a VPN, try using a different exit node, because that's where the majority of their attacks are coming from.
Or don't use VPN. This is something I'm gonna say. Don't use VPN because, well, VPNs are generally in data centers, which a lot of services nowadays block even.
Yep. And of course, on top of all that, they have the standard run-of-the-mill standard crawlers, your search engines and stuff like that. Or even, normal users. And it's just been getting too much for them because, yeah. And then they came around talking about, how some web developers are integrating a program called Anubis to decrease the amount of requests that these automated systems are sending. Now, Bigpod, before we get talking about what the Free Software Foundation says, can you give us an explainer onto generally what Anubis does?
Anubis basically, at the start when you load the page, takes over the page and basically tells the browser to load a JavaScript script, which then does a random calculation in similar style as the ones done by certain crypto projects. So I think it calculates probably some hash, and that can take a bit, which is good because guess what? That way it gets all sorts of crawlers and automated systems out of the way,
and
as they are literally.
It especially screws up those large language models.
Yeah. A reason for that is because most of those literally jump over such websites. They go, I'm waiting too long. I'm gonna
move on.
Do something else.
Yep.
It's not important. And the problem with Free Software Foundation they have with Anubis is that because of what it does, it is malware.
Yeah, because the idea is, and this is because this is a JavaScript program that gets automatically downloaded to your web browser and then executes a bunch of useless computations and random numbers just to keep one CPU busy.
Yes. And most of the time this takes about a second, but on slow machines can take even over a minute.
Yeah, which I have actually seen.
Yeah, and when it's done, it sends the computation results back to the website. The website will verify them, and then it will return the original requested web page.
Yeah, so now we get into preachy FSF mode here.
Yes.
Because that's basically what the general rest of the article is at this point. So, at the FSF, we do not support this scheme because it conflicts with the principles of software freedom. The Anubis JavaScript program's calculations are the same kind of calculations done by cryptocurrency mining programs. Technically true. A program which does calculations that a user does not want done is a form of malware. Because you got to remember, their whole philosophy is all about user control over the software. But
yes, remember, 90% of things do things user isn't unaware and might not want done, but has to be done.
Right? Like,
yeah.
Can we talk about like half the stuff that's going on in your motherboard's firmware right now?
Like, we don't even need to talk about that. Can we talk about things like your applications that like could be run on server, but due to better looks run on the desktop, but could easily run on server? Things like in the browser specifically. Any website that has any kind of interactivity that doesn't load a new web page likely runs in your browser.
Yep. So then they start comparing this to how proprietary software is often malware, and people, by their definition, of course, and that people often run it not because they want to, but because they've been pressured into it. Yeah. Okay.
Proprietary software isn't malware. Sorry, FSF. And then they go into even more preaching, and I'm just like, oh God, because and it's all about their want for users to control their own computing and to have autonomy, independence, and freedom.
Yeah. That's it. Then they came out and said that. So all their services are still up with normal response times at the moment, and have been for a majority of this week so far. Thanks to these people named Bob, Corwin, and Luke. Which, hey, thank those three people for keeping our Free Software Foundation services up and running, because it turns out that GNU.org, that the GNU project does a lot of very useful stuff for us Linux users. So, and then they go on to remind us that they only have 2 full-time system administrators. They would like to hire more, but they just don't have funds, and they ask for money.
Yeah. Now let's go into a topic that is actually really close to my heart and to the land I'm from.
It is close to my heart too, but this initiative is all you. So, Bigpod, just to let you know, I did in fact when you and I first started talking about this initiative many months ago, I had a thought there was an MMO game called Otherland that I wanted to try out and play, simply because I watched a YouTube video by Josh Strife Hayes about it, and it looked really cool.
Yeah.
So Otherland is an MMO. It's a science fiction based one. Well, they shut down the servers, and they never got around to posting like official server software, even though the developer behind it has said that, hey, we're willing to do this. But of course, they're dealing with some intellectual property issues right now, and that's just why it never came out. But that's like the one game that I was disappointed I never got to try, because the game is effectively dead.
Yeah.
So there's this initiative going around the EU right now, and only the EU.
Yes, please, if anybody else wants to sign it and isn't EU citizen, do not do it. You could have problems with the law.
You could have big problems with the law.
Because it is falsifying information on an official government initiative, an official government procedure.
And in fact, this initiative has been so successful that just last week they met the 1 million signature threshold, and now they are just collecting bonus.
And what initiative are we talking about?
Oh,
we're talking about Stop Killing Games.
Yes. So if you've even been to YouTube and you watch,
you probably heard of it,
and you have shown video game interest on YouTube at some point, you've probably been flooded with a bunch of videos about this.
Yes. So
Bigpod, can we start with like how this whole initiative started? Like, how much of the story do you know? Can you tell us from the beginning?
Bit.
Okay.
So Ross Scott, creator of something on YouTube, I don't remember out of my head, likes playing games. So
obviously.
So he was kind of miffed about the game The Crew, which Ubisoft basically destroyed by disabling the online servers. And what he liked about The Crew is that the fact that it had like miniaturized map of US you could travel through, which is a really nice thing to have. So he wanted for it to remain. And since it's literally a single player game which requires connection to online servers just because. And well, that is a problematic thing, because that way a lot of games could be killed in future. So, well, they started multiple initiatives, multiple petitions, and multiple actions. But the one that they believe will be the most successful is they launched a European Citizens Initiative to introduce a new law in the EU against publishers purposefully destroying video games they have sold. So, and as Josh said, that they already hit the 1 million signatures. So, from 1 million of us EU citizens, there is actually more than 1 million. 1,273,000. But this doesn't mean you should stop, because there needs to be quite a big buffer, as there can be invalid invalid signatures, whether it be because of wrong address, whether it be because of wrong name, whether it be because somebody did it for somebody else,
or
and stuff like that.
Somebody from the U.S. Made a mistake on a petition, decided that they were going to sign it.
Yes, stuff like that.
Yeah.
There are gonna be many signatures that are gonna be invalidated. I believe he actually mentioned that the biggest record holder had like 200,000 of them cancelled or invalidated.
Something like that. But there's...
He believes Stop Killing Games will shatter that record.
That's entirely possible. Now, according to like all the media reports I've seen for like the Stop Killing Games, just the saying of Stop Killing Games has been floating around like the EU political atmosphere over the past year as like the number 3, number 4 topic. And
that's really nice to
was
hear.
Up until about like this last month or so, because it's really blowing up, because they got real close to that million marker. Are they going to get the million signature marker? Are they going to do it? Are they going to do it? And that's where all the YouTube spam came from, generally.
Yes.
Now, there is a petition for the UK government, but this petition is just to have Parliament consider it for debate. So okay.
Technically speaking, the EU Citizens Initiative is also just for them to consider, but it means that EU people will have to have conversations with both sides and then actually decide, from what I understand. So they have to actually make quite a bit of due diligence before they can make the decision.
Yeah.
And that is really good.
So, anyways, the EU petition passed. So now Parliament basically has to consider if they even want to debate it. They did give a response on February 3rd, 2025. There are no plans to amend the UK consumer law on disabling video games. Those selling video games must already comply with existing requirements in consumer law, and we will continue to monitor the issue. And, of course, they have a huge blurb of text I'm not really going to talk too much into. And then there's even somewhere where you can complain specifically about a copy of the game, The Crew, with the French government.
Yeah. Well, I cannot wait for this to actually see where it goes in the European Union. And again, if you are European Union citizen, please, and you haven't yet, important, you can only do it once. If you haven't yet, sign it. Give us a fighting chance to get better legality in the question of destroying games.
Yeah.
Because remember, they are art, and they one of the things I found interesting, they actually worked with members of European Parliament to submit questions to European Commission on the legality of destroying video games that were already sold, and the answer was essentially that this could be a violation of Directive 1993/13 EEC, but it is at this point up to the member states to resolve this. But if this gets past the current stage, this could actually, a lot of this could change due to, well, factors it will have to be at least partially considered by at least certain parts of European Union councils and all the components that are there. And more importantly, this debate could actually shape the conversation on many other digital, shall we call them, goods that you actually buy on the internet, whether it be movies, whether it be ebooks, whether it be TV shows, or even general software.
Yeah, if anything, it sets a precedent for like further petitions. You know, like stop killing movies or something like that. Now, let's talk a little bit about like how video game companies are currently like handling things. So, and I'm going to use like these Japanese game developers specifically as like a point of reference here. Now, I'm a big fan of Monster Hunter, and we all know that Monster Hunter is a game that does use an anti-cheat system, at least Monster Hunter Wilds. Now, Monster Hunter Wilds uses de novo anti-cheat, which means that periodically the anti-cheat will need to send a message off to the void of the internet. You're like, hey, I'm alive. I'm valid. Just putting that reminder out there for you. Now, for the most part, you can play Monster Hunter 100% solo. In fact, that's actually how I prefer to play it because, you know, doing like the group quest on Monster Hunter, it's only occasionally fun, but most of the time it's just annoying because, you know, then it's just too long or too short, I mean. But anyways, so what that does, and there's a lot of games that are very similar that are, you know, they're very solo games that are using like this anti-cheat system. So one thing that I could see here happening from just this petition alone passing, assuming it does pass, we could see the end of single player anti-cheat. Just that alone, which would suddenly mean that for us Linux gamers that can't play a lot of these single player games with anti-cheat enabled, well, now we can play them. Our Steam Deck suddenly got more useful. I said I don't have a Steam Deck, but maybe I should get one.
And I'm gonna just talk about from my perspective. So, Call of Duty. I like to play Call of Duty single player. Why do I have to have connection to server to play the newest Call of Duty's single player campaign?
That is a good question. Like, as far as I can tell, like they don't have like scoreboards or anything like that for how long it takes you to complete the mission or something like that.
Nope, nothing like that. There is absolutely no reason. There technically is a reward system. You get one-time rewards for completing X mission. You get a one-time reward in the multiplayer version.
Yeah, but you see,
like a gun and stuff like that.
Achievements like that are so generic that I don't see why they're achievements to be.
Basically, everybody gets it. So it's generic. It's useless. It's completely like it is. Okay, I understand the reason why it is there, so that people who are completionists would actually and only play multiplayer would actually go and complete the single player just so they got the completionist thing they have, and that's it.
Yeah. So, I'm curious as to what games you would be excited to play again in the future. Assuming that this passes, we'll just say that somehow they just make it so that it's retroactive. So, like, all previous games that were killed, if they could be playable again. So
okay, so if it is retroactive and that everybody who ever created a game had to, not just games that are currently active.
Yeah.
There is, I can't remember the name of, there is an superhero uh, action RPG I used to play, and I would definitely like to play it again. I can't remember the name right now, but yeah,
City of Heroes?
no,
No?
no.
Okay, we'll remember it at some point.
Yeah, I remember playing that, and I would like to play it again, maybe. And like on the more modern side, shall we say modern side, I would definitely love to have, even after World of Warcraft ends, I would like to have an ability to play World of Warcraft when I want to.
In a legal fashion.
Yes. Let's be clear. This
Yes.
is all about legal fashion.
Yeah. We're not
I
talking
don't.
we're not talking about private servers in a legal fashion. So
Yes, they would still be private servers. The difference would be that Blizzard would give me the binary to run that private server, even if because it's me, I'm probably gonna running it on my own servers just for me and maybe a handful of people with whom I play, and
I mean,
that's about it.
one of these days, I should just make an EU account and just that way I can just play World of Warcraft with you with massive latency.
Yeah.
But people in Australia do it all the time.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I think we're going a little bit long at this point, Bigpod. So I think we can wrap up the show.
Yeah.
If you would like to contact us and tell us about your favorite video game that you can't play anymore because it is dead, send us an email. Contact@talkspace.com. And of course, if you would like to reminisce about like your favorite video games with each other, we do have a Discord server available because it turns out that people just use Discord. I know that Bigpod and I are really into like self-hosting things, but I'm not willing to self-host like a community chat forum. Not really, because then we actually have to worry about like user accounts. But if you give us a lot of money on Patreon, we might do it one of these days. Patreon.com/NoTuxAllowed. Drop us a couple dollars right there. We'll give you access to a premium feed that gives you a higher bitrate audio quality on our feed, so you can hear me in higher definition audio. I'm not saying high definition audio, just higher definition audio. There's a difference. You'll also get access to this pre-show thing that we record occasionally. It's been a while.
Yes.
It's been a while.
Very occasionally, and if I remember to store, I might upload a garbled version of episode we made but never came out because it was garbled.
Yeah,
I might actually, if I find the files I might have deleted for the previous episode, I might do that. You might hear the garbled version of Bigpod and Josh.
That is true. I haven't checked my own server yet, but it's I probably still have it there.
It's not your that I'm so worried about. It's my side. I think I deleted my files.
Why would you delete
already.
your own files? Why would you do that?
Because
why don't you have like a 32 terabyte array that you just save everything to?
Because I don't have sponsors to pay me or money to pay for it myself.
I'm sorry we're not wealthy enough to just buy you a server yet, Bigpod. But remember we talked about this many months ago about our wild plan for if we ever get $2,000.
Yeah.
Well, actually, if we get $2,000 first, I'm gonna take a Euro trip, and that way I can go hug me a Bigpod because he looks like a very huggable person, but he's just on it. There's a very geographic difference between him and I. So, we'll work on that. But anyways, I think we can call that a show for the night, Bigpod.
Yep.
Yep. We're not going to talk about you playing City Skylines on your YouTube channel or anything like that. We're not going to talk about like maybe my return to distro hacking this weekend on my YouTube channel. We're not going to talk about that at all. But maybe you'll want to talk with us over there then. So we got some links for that in the description down below. We'll see you guys.
Goodbye.